Hello, I am Reverend Irene Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to Generationally Speaking. Here at the table, we come and we discuss life issues, no matter what they might be. As we sit at the table with each generation, we all learn, we all grow, we all are inspired.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Generationally Speaking. Hello, I am Reverend Irene Smith, and I want to welcome you again to Generationally Speaking. We are so excited that you have joined us today. Of course, when we all come to the table, all generations, and we share one with the other, we all grow, we all become, and we're able to learn one from the other. Well, I'm excited today to introduce to you my guest, Gary Jones. We're getting ready to have a phenomenal conversation. You know what I tell you? Go get your writing pad. Go get your laptop, your iPad, whatever you're taking your notes on, and make sure you get some tea because this brother is getting ready to share some information with us. And you know what I always say about information? If you got inspiration and you get some information, transformation is going to take place. So let's walk with this journey with Gary as he shares with us. Gary, let me just say welcome to Generationally Speaking.
Thank you.
Well, Gary, I'm just excited to have you on as our special guest. We have lots of information that we want to cover today. I want to first start off by allowing you to introduce yourself to my audience. Tell us a little bit about Gary Jones, where you grew up, your parents' impact, the tribe around you, your community, how it impacted you and put you on the trajectory that you found yourself.
Well, I grew up in Kinston, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised with my grandparents, and I was a very sick kid growing up because I have asthma, I had ulcers, but I love sports, not the Redskins, the Dallas Cowboys. I want the audience to know that. But I just, my grandmother always took care of me. And, she always disciplined me, and also. When you asked about the community, when I was growing up, the community all came together and helped one another. Say, for instance, if I go across the street, the time I come back home, my grandmother already knew I was across the street, and we didn't supposed to cross the street. So we had a great community, growing up. And also my aunts and uncles, they was in the households too, helping my grandmother help raise me.
So your grandmother was instrumental in raising you. And let me just ask you this. What were some of the life lessons that you learned as a young man growing up in Kingston? And was this a large community?
Well, the community had like 25,000 people. It was a rather small community. I learned a lot of life lessons. I can tell you one I can think of right now. My grandmother, when she used to call me, I said, huh, what? And one day she stopped me and she told me, look, boy, when I call you, it's either yes, yes, ma'am, yes, or yes, sir, when you're out in public. I didn't know, I wasn't trying to disrespect her or nothing like that. I just didn't know. And then my uncle, he was a teacher, retired as a principal. And I had to go to the same elementary school with him, so I really couldn't cut up. Even if I had good grades, if I have an N or a U in conduct, I would still get a spanking. And that respect thing growing up was very, very serious. And earlier I mentioned something about being a sports fanatic. When he would come in the house. And I used to have, I forgot the Sports Illustrator. He would take that Sports Illustrator and tell me go get a book, or read that newspaper. You're not gonna sit here and just read sports all the time or get your lessons. And that was a life lesson I had to learn.
Okay. And so, learning those lessons of respect, those are so important. They follow you throughout life. Uh, Listening and learning how to follow directions. You learn one way or the other. So your grandmother sort of reinforced it with a few whacks here and there.
Oh, yeah, she used to tell me to go get the switch. And I came back with the smaller switch. Then I had to go again and get it again.
You
You
know,
know,
you're talking about a switch, and when I think about generationally speaking, we have some younger people who don't even know what that is. And so, share with my audience what a switch is.
a switch is it's attached to the tree like a small little limb, and you break it off, and I guess they take the leaves off of it, and I guess they had these little thorns, on the switch, and so tearing you up, wearing you out. Yeah, that's what a switch was, and I'd rather have the belt than a switch.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that for my audience because, yeah, that word switch is definitely a generational term. So, growing up, you found yourself matriculating through elementary and with your uncle and relatives present in the school. It kept you on course. And when you graduated from high school, what pathway did you travel?
Okay, when I graduated from high school in 1982, I attended North Carolina Central University, and I majored in criminal justice. And I graduated in 1986 from North Carolina Central University, and majored in criminal justice.
Okay. And while you were in college, those years, again, we learn a lot of lessons in elementary and middle and high school. But when we get to college, because now we are really on our own, and there are other lessons that we learn. So when you think back of Gary in college, and you said, "Man, I learned a lot of a lot of lessons." As I matriculated through college. Can you remember at least two things that took you on through your life that you learned at college? Or did you make friends for life there?
Yeah, yeah, I made a couple of friends for life. As a matter of fact, my roommate, um, he was my roommate, but he didn't stay in the dorm. He was a basketball player, so he stayed off campus, but he had to have a room, and I always stayed in his room. I always studied.
Hmm.
Basically, when I went off to college, I didn't, I was supposed to run a track on a track scholarship, and that didn't pan out. They promised me something that when I got there, I didn't get, and things of that nature. I stayed in the library. I stayed in my room a lot, and there was a reason why I stayed in my room a lot. Let me take you back to high school. I never in my life drank any alcohol. I did
Mm.
any drugs in high school. My graduation night in high school, my first time drinking a beer.
Wow.
Then when I went off to college, I drink a lot of other beers, things of that nature. And I partied, but I was basically balanced because I knew I didn't want to disappoint my grandparents. Well, my grandmother, because my grandfather had passed. And I knew I had an educational background, and I knew how they would feel. But I think I did pretty good in college, besides the drinking and things of that nature. I was trying to feel my way out and things of that nature. But of course, when you go off to college, you don't know what you want to major in. So after the second year, I'm gonna tell you the reason why I majored in criminal justice, and this is the honest God truth. All right, I took intro to criminal justice, and I was able to articulate and comprehend everything in that book.
Mm.
And the reason I was able to articulate and comprehend, a lot of my friends, went to reformatory school,
Mhm.
and went prison, and
Mhm.
so parole, uh, probation and parole. That was something I kind of always knew from
Mhm.
growing up.
Mhm.
So that kind of like interests me, and it was easy to me. So I said I need to stick with this because this is something I really know.
Wow, wow. You're right. I think as in the African American community, we do know we know a lot more than I think we even realize when it comes to criminal justice, because we have cousins, we have friends who got caught up, and we know these persons, um, personally, and we know their personality, and we also know how they got to that place. And so yes, and so now you graduated, and what did you do with that degree?
Okay, okay. Couple a month before I graduated, I was home on spring break, and I decided to, go out with my friends. A couple of them with different colleges and things, and they was home for spring break. So since we hadn't seen each other in a long, long time, we decided to go out to this club. And one of my buddies was home for his father's funeral. He was stationed in Germany. And later on at night, of course, I had a girlfriend. My daughter was born, and I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to go out." And my girlfriend said, "Well, you haven't spent no time with us during the week." I said, "I just be going 20 minutes, just go inside and talk to everybody and come back home." I went to the club. I was in that club 30 minutes before I got shot.
Mm.
And what it was is that the guy I was with, he had his girlfriend, and it was dark, and so another guy came around and touched her on backside, and so they got into it. So I'm breaking it up, and then the guy told me, "You can get some of it too, and go outside."
Mm.
And for some reason, I didn't want to fight that night. I just did. I guess because I had on a blazer. I was sharp that night, so I ain't feel like fighting. And about 10 minutes later, someone hit me in the back of the head, and I turned around. It was him. So we got to fighting and things of that nature, and I had him on the ground. I was hitting him, and they was pulling me up off of him. I didn't see the gun. The guy that was pulling me up off him was handing him the gun. But the people were screaming, "Gun, gun." Next thing I know, the gun was right here. And when he shot, it misfired. So I was able to take off and run, and he caught me in my right hip, and everything went numb. And I was hopping, then he caught up and hit me in my left hip. So basically, I was at his mercy, and he stood over me, and it misfired again. And then when he did shoot again, it just grazed my hand. So yes, and then the next month I did graduate from North Carolina Central University, and
Wow.
those are some life lessons. Okay, let me tell you this. Before that happened, when I was in college, a lot of things were going on that I wasn't aware of. It seemed like people wanted to fight me for some reason. It was just crazy. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Everywhere, and then I had a dream one night that I was driving my car, and I got in a car accident, and I was paralyzed, and I wasn't able to walk across the stage. And so I said, "That's a crazy dream. What kind of dream is that?" That's because God was talking to me. I didn't know how to listen to God. I really didn't. Growing up, people talking about, "Oh, he come in voices and stuff like that." But it was so many things going on. He was trying to get as I get older,
Mm-hmm.
he was trying to get my attention, but I didn't know. And so even though I didn't get in a car accident, I did get shot, and I couldn't walk for a minute. And so when I laid on my bed, I thought about that dream that I had. And I didn't know how to counteract it. I grew up in a church. I played around in church. Of course, we were forced to go to church and things of that nature. But I didn't know how to listen to God. If I was ingrained and knew how to listen, when I read the Bible, I couldn't articulate what I was reading because the King James Version. So when I read other Bibles and stuff, everything's clear. And so if I would have listened to God, if I knew how to listen to God, my life could have been a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, certainly coming from the South, we sing the song, "Somebody Prayed for Me," had me on their mind. I'm sure your grandmother, your grandparents, and all the other, your tribe of family were praying for you long before you got to this place.
There's no doubt about it, because since you said that, I know my grandmother was praying. The reason why, because when I raised my own children, they stayed out. I might doze off, but I wasn't comfortable, and I was praying that nothing happened to them. So I said, one day I said, I'm quite sure my grandmother was doing the same thing, and I'm thankful, very
Yeah.
thankful.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you make your way through life. How do you end up working in, first of all, when did you have this cancer diagnosis?
That was in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was 2010. I was at my last prison because my career. Okay, do you want to talk about the cancer thing, or do you want to?
Yes. Yeah. Let me talk
Okay,
about that a minute.
all right. I used to compete, in competition, and one day me and one of the lieutenants went out to eat, and the next day I was so sick, and I took myself to the doctor, and I was just burning up. My back was hurting. Everything was hurting. When I went to the doctor, they said, you got like one of the worst urinary tract infections we ever seen.
Mm.
And I think that was 1998. I may have been 35 at the time. But, I had to take the medication and drink that nasty cranberry juice. A month later, the same thing happened. I have another urinary tract infection. 3 months later, same thing happened. I had another urinary tract infection. So I asked to see another doctor, and the doctor got kind of irate. Well, they gonna tell you the same thing I'm telling you, but I want to know why I was getting sick. Because see, when I was growing up, they're saying mostly females have urinary tract infection. It was very rare for a man to have urinary tract infection. So to speed this thing up, I went to another specialist. He did say the same thing. Well, your prostate is swollen, stuff. I said, oh, okay. I said, but I'm still getting sick. So that was in Tallahassee, Florida. I moved to Atlanta in 2003, and I kept getting sick, urinary tract infection, urinary tract infection. And they kept saying, you got the worst urinary tract infection I ever had. Then I went to Johns Hopkins. Very disappointed. Because see, I was elated to go there. They accepted me. I sent all my medical paperwork with them, and then when I got there, the doctor came in the office and stuff. He said, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "Well, I made the appointment a long time ago. I have a problem with urinary tract infection, and you are my third. My third person that I had to come to." He said, "Don't they have good doctors in Atlanta?" I said, sure, they have good doctors in Atlanta, but I'm here. I want to know what's going on. So he looked at my chart. He said, I suggest that you do what the others doctor recommend. You just take antibiotics for the rest of your life, and that'll fight it off. Literally, that's what he said. And I'm like, no, that don't sound right, So I got discouraged. And so I always had antibiotics and pain pills. And just because see that urinary tract infection can flare up at any time. I was at Super Bowl one time that flared up. So I just happened to be in Washington, D.C. I had moved back to North Carolina, and I was staying in Florida, but I just happened to come up to Washington, D.C. And I ran into a friend of mine. I said, Gary, you still having a problem with your prostate? I said, yes. He said, you stayed in Tallahassee. Why you didn't go to Jacksonville to the Mayo Clinic? I said, I thought on the Mayo Clinic I know in Rochester, Minnesota. And the reason I know that because see, the inmates, we used to transfer inmates to Rochester, the rich inmates that want to go, to Rochester, Minnesota at Mayo Clinic. I don't care. They have one in Jacksonville, Florida. I did not know. So when I get to the Mayo Clinic, of course, they tell you to stay 3 or 4 days. So when I got to the urologist, he said, I'm looking in your medical, and I see they did the kidney stuff and, to make sure because of the blood and stuff. I see that, but I don't see whether or not you had a, for lack of a better word, I don't know whether or not you had a scan on your prostate. I said, I don't recall. He said, can I do one? I said, yeah. He said, we could set this up. He said, I'm not saying anything is wrong. I just don't see it in your record. And I don't understand why a scan hadn't been on your prostate. And check this out. This was the 19th urinary tract infection at that particular time.
Wow.
So when I had a scan and stuff, I was still in Florida. The doctor called. He said, "Are you still in Florida?" I said, "Yes, I'm gonna go back to Atlanta, a couple of days." He said, "We found 2 tumors." He said, "We want to do a biopsy." I said, "Okay, fine, you can do a biopsy. I have no problem with it." And it's weird. It's weird before I got the answer. Before he called and gave me the news, I had a dream that John Edwards, Congressman Edwards from North Carolina, I think his wife's name was Elizabeth Edwards, and she was suffering from cancer and stuff like that. I had a dream about, I said, why is John Edwards over my grandmother's house? And then why is his wife talking to me? And so normally I wake up and turn on TV. And then when I woke up and turned on TV, Elizabeth Edwards had passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I got in my car and I was on my way back to Atlanta. And the doctor called and said, what you doing? I said, I'm driving, on my way back to Atlanta. And I've been up here too long. He said, are you sitting down? I said, yeah, I'm driving, sitting down. He said, you want to pull over? I said, no. I said, when you start asking me questions like that, I kind of sensed I already know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It says prostate cancer. You have, you have 3 options. You can do radiation, chemo. I said, chemo is out the question. I can't continue to get sick. Or you can have it removed. I said, let me ask you something. Why didn't the other doctors find it? He said, they gave you a test called the PSA. Mm-hmm. That's not 100%. Mm-hmm. The PSA. They looked at you, because I looked at you and very healthy. And you look young, very healthy. So I'm not saying that they didn't take you seriously. I'm not saying that. But the doctor has to listen to the patient. Even though you can do a test and they come out negative and the patient keep complaining, that's when, but we still have to go further. And see, for the men out there in your audience, I had a PSA, I had a low PSA, 2.1. Okay, normally you don't have prostate cancer with a PSA, you got 2.1. Normally you might have a 8 and 9. I said, what happened? He said, like I said, the test not 100% sure. And he said, I think what happened was they kept doing your PSA and your PSA is low. And they kind of like dismissed it. So he said, just because your PSA is low doesn't mean that you don't have cancer. And just because your PSA is high doesn't mean that you do have cancer. And that was my journey. Oh, I had one more urinary tract infection. My surgery was set up for March 2011. I had already made a decision what I was going to do. About 2 weeks before, I was like, I'm not going to go through with the surgery. I hadn't told anybody. I said, I'm not going to go through with surgery. So I woke up one morning and boy, I was hurting so bad. I knew what it was. I'm still on medication. Doctor gave me medication to make sure the surgery go all right. He don't want anything to happen. Now I go to the emergency room and urinary tract infections. Say, yeah, I'm going to worst urinary tract infection. I said, yeah, I know I got cancer and stuff, but then later on that day, I couldn't see. My fingernails were turning purple. I didn't know what was going on. So at the time, I asked my girlfriend to take me to the doctor and stuff. And they said, you got a serious urinary tract infection. And I'm trying to leave out because that was the eve of my birthday. I said, well, just give me, I went to the hospital earlier. Just give me the medication. I don't want to be on my birthday. I said, Mr. Jones, you're not going anywhere. He kept coming in, kept coming in. And then I asked the nurse, I said, why he keep coming in, and not saying anything? He gonna have to tell you. I said, well, go call him, come in. I said, can you just give me medication? He said, Mr. Jones, you're very sick. I said, I know I'm sick. I've been knowing that. Very, very sick. He said, I don't think you know what's going on. I said, you're on that track infection. I mean, I've been going through this. And he said, Mr. Jones, the kidneys are shutting down.
Mm.
Your livers are shutting down. I said, well, go ahead and fix it. You know, Mr. Jones, you really don't know when your organs start shutting down, you die.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in so much pain, I wasn't just trying to comprehend what he was saying. I was trying to get out of that pain. And so he said, we could call in a kidney specialist and a liver specialist, and we got to put you in the hospital. And we could have to do something. We had to do some culture tests or whatever. And so, the cancer doctor, the liver doctor came in. I said, I'm going to give you some medication so my level start going up. My kidney doctor, it took about 5 days for my kidney, for the level to start going up. So I was in the hospital for 8 days, and I was laying on my back. And I'm gonna tell you this: I didn't hear no voices. I didn't hear anything, but something came in my heart, and it was something like this: you didn't tell me I allow you to survive all these years. I didn't allow you to die. Now you can change your mind about that surgery after they found out that you had cancer. And that's what made me go forward with it.
Mm-hmm. You shared a lot of information, and I think that what I heard that resonated was that we often hear that doctors don't necessarily take when Blacks, African Americans come in. Sometimes they are dismissive of our symptoms, dismissive of our pain. And that's what I'm hearing, because when you look at how many times you had urinary tract infection and nobody seemed like they were trying to get to the root of it. What was the cause of this?